to this month's Coffee Talk. I'm Kim Pruitt, one of the wellness counselors at the high school. Today's topic is sleep problems in children and teens.
Hi, my name is LaShasta Bell. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor, certified life coach, international speaker, author, on and on and on. But most importantly, I am here to support you and your children in the journey of sleep and understanding the value and the importance of sleep. And I get it. It's like, okay, LaShasta, sleep is important. We know that. But I have these high schoolers. I have the toddler. I have the baby. I have myself. How do we all get regulated? How do we all get on a routine? How do we, especially in the midst of COVID? Like, it's a whole pandemic happening. And you want to talk about sleep? Absolutely. I do want to talk about sleep. And part of the reason that I want to talk about sleep is because sleep is not prioritized as it should be. Our sleep is literally invaluable. It is vital to our well-being, physically and mentally. So today I'm going to talk to you about sleep, the importance of sleep, how it impacts us when we are not getting sleep, and then some things that you can do yourself and you can support your teens in doing to improve their sleep and to get better sleep. So let's talk about what's contributing to our lack of sleep. I mean, hello, COVID, pandemic, social injustice, is so many different things going on. But let's understand this. Before there was a pandemic, our sleep has not been prioritized. As a matter of fact, 1 in 3 adults report having quality of sleep that is less than what they would prefer. That's 33% of adults. We know that our kids have a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep. Our teens are up late at night. And some of us, we just feel like, okay, I'll get some sleep when I can. And today, it is my hopes that by the time we're done, that instead of you saying, I'm going to get some sleep when I can, that you say, I'm going to get some sleep first. That it literally bumps up your list to the top. And when you do it for yourself, you're able to help your kids. However, if you do not apply it to yourself first, it makes it less likely for your kids to understand and get it, and for them to value sleep. Because let's just be honest, we are our kids' first teachers. Even if we don't want to believe that, we are indeed. We are their role models. Research says that teenagers look to their parents more than they look to their peers. However, when they don't feel listened to and heard by their family and their parents, then that's when their peers become their primary source. So during COVID, we have been quarantined and isolated, and I know kids are getting back to school, but some kids are still at home learning virtually. Parents are working at home, and so our schedules have changed. And so when there is a lack of time anchors meaning at school, 12 o'clock is lunch. At work, 1 o'clock is lunch. 5 o'clock, time to get off from work. 3 o'clock, time to get off from school. So when we lack those time anchors, it's harder to keep track of time. It's harder to keep track of the day of the week. What time is it? I mean, let's be honest. When we were in quarantine, how did we keep up? Some of us was like, okay, what day is it? Is it Wednesday? Oh, wait, hold on. This Is Us comes on Wednesday, so it's not coming on a day, so it cannot be Wednesday. We had a very hard time. And so not having those time anchors, also low levels of natural light. So I don't know about you guys, I have a teenage son. During quarantine and even now, he likes to be in his room playing the video game. He has blackout curtains, the lights are off. The only thing on is the TV screen. And he could be there for hours if we allowed it. And so the lack of natural light and then the low light can also contribute to your teens not sleeping well. We have a whole thing called our circadian rhythm, which basically in the most simplistic terms is knowing the difference between daytime and nighttime. You know, when you have the newborn, people are like, you better get them on a day schedule, you better get them on a night schedule, make sure they're up. That's what happens in our body. It's like a time clock of being able to know, okay, it's daytime, okay, it's nighttime. When we have a reduction of natural light, then it throws off our rhythm. Being at home More often, being inside more frequently means that there's less natural light coming in because we're not outside, we're not moving about. And so that is another way that our sleep has been disrupted. And of course, Grant, I'm going to talk to you about ways to address that. So right now we're just identifying what's going on. Anxiety and worry. Worrying about COVID and what's going on at the school and what's happening at the job. Parents are being laid off, and students even that are our age to work. So a lot of students weren't able to work summer jobs like they usually do, or they were at their summer job and ended up being laid off. So the worry, the anxiety, worry happens here. This is repeated thought. Stress happens in our body. Anxiety is how we respond to external factors. So those are things that are creating disruption in our sleep. With our sleep, depression and isolation. So I've talked about, we had to be isolated for a time, and now we're social distancing and we have our mask on, and it's hard to read full facial expressions, and that's one of the ways that we communicate. So sometimes we start to feel isolated even when we're amongst people because the way we communicate has had to change. There's greater family and work stress. More screen time. I mean, we're binging Netflix. I can't tell you how many times since February I've seen a post on Facebook saying like, what you binge watching? I'm looking for a new show. I've seen that more in the last 6 months than I probably have seen in years. So it's not just the teenagers that are having more screen time. We as adults have increased our screen time. I've heard some people say when we were in quarantine, like, what else is there to do but watch TV? What else is there to do but watch Netflix or Hulu or whatever it may be? And so when we increase that screen time or have excessive screen time, it stimulates the brain and it suppresses the natural production of melatonin. And melatonin is what helps us to sleep at night. Stress-related fatigue. So having persistent headaches will keep us up at night or have our sleep be disrupted. Memory lapses, digestive problems. All of those are connected to our irregular sleeping. I know that's a lot, but we're one being. From the top of our head to the bottom of our feet, we coexist. So if one place in our life isn't well, then it will contribute to the unwellness in other places. Not to mention obesity, is contribute to lack of sleep. When we do not sleep well, our bodies do not get to do what it needs to do at night. And so it makes it harder to lose weight and it makes it easier to gain weight. Understand this, that sleep is critical. It's a critical biological process. It's important, but even more so in a pandemic. Like literally cultivating sleep should start the moment you wake up. I know you're like, what, LaShasta? What does that mean? You should be intentional about cultivating your sleep from the moment you wake up. So when you wake up in the morning, everything that you do throughout the day should be intentional and positively contribute to sleeping well at night. Because our sleep regulates everything. And I know you're like, okay, you might be being a little bit extra. I'm not, just hold tight. So when we talk about sleep, sleep empowers an effective immune system. When we sleep well and get consistent sleep, it empowers and improves our immune system. And I don't know about you guys, but right now, more than any time, I need an empowered and improved immune system. Because the last thing that I would want to happen is to end up having immune deficiencies or a weakened immune system, which makes me more subjective to COVID, flu, cold, whatever it is. No one really likes to be sick. It doesn't feel good. We feel yucky when we don't feel well. So when we sleep, it strengthens our body defenses. And studies have even shown that when we don't sleep well, it can lessen the effects of vaccinations that we have. So that's how it connects to our immune system. Sleep heightens brain function. Our minds work better when we get good sleep. That makes sense, especially when we understand and know what happens when we sleep. It contributes to complex thinking, learning, memory, and decision making. So if you think about on days that you know you didn't get good sleep, think about how hard it was to make decisions through in that day. Think about the difficulties you had in problem solving and critical thinking. Now think about your teenagers who throughout the day, in a school day, they are required to think critically for hours at a time with little to no break. And they are doing so on 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. And I get it. It's not just COVID, because before COVID, teens were having a hard time sleeping and staying asleep and getting good rest. Sleep enhances our mood. When we are rested, we are more patient. We're less irritable. It just feels good. We are able to engage. Our energy is up. When we lack sleep, it can cause or even worsen depression. I'm gonna repeat that. Yes, I did say when we lack sleep, it can cause depression. There's research linked to those who have sleep dysregularities have an increase of depression diagnosis. Those with a depression diagnosis tend to have sleep dysregularities. It's almost impossible to be diagnosed with depression if sleep dysregularities isn't present. That's one of our telltale signs, because most of us who have suffered with depression suffered with having low sleep quality. So sleep improves our mental health. Besides depression, studies have shown a lack of sleep being linked with mental health conditions like anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. So when we do not sleep well, all our mental health is impacted, and it can contribute to the diagnosis of various disorders. So those are some of the ways, not all, because I could go on and on and on for like longer than you guys would like about how the lack of sleep impacts us and impacts those around us. We know some of the common things that I didn't mention, but when you're sleep deprived, your ability to react is slow. So when you're driving, it can cause an increase in accidents in driving when you're sleep deprived. And when I say sleep deprived, I know some people are like, oh, well, I get sleep here and there. Sleep deprived, for my defining, is not having consistent, sufficient sleep. So if you do not have consistent, sufficient sleep, then that's how I'm defining sleep deprived. Now, when we talk about okay, how do we know what's consistent and sufficient? Everyone's number is different. You can look at statistics, and statistics will tell you a child this age needs the average of this many hours. So kids under 12 to I think 5 to 12, so 10 to 12 hours. Kids in high school, adolescent age, an average of say 8 to 9 hours. That's what research says. I want to encourage you in this process to get to know your child in their magic number. But before you can do that, you have to know your magic number. My magic number before COVID was 7 hours. LaShasta needed exactly 7 hours of sleep to show up and be present for everyone, including herself. That was my magic number. And guess what? COVID happened. And it was like 7.5, maybe 8.5. So when our bodies experience stress and our minds experience worry, it may mean we need a different amount of sleep. And it's okay, giving yourself permission. So I just adjusted my schedule. Instead of waking up, going to bed at 10 and waking up at 5, I would go to bed at 10 and wake up at 7. I did what I needed to do because I value my sleep. Now, some of us will know that we're more tired and need more rest, but we'll say, I'm just going to press through. Just suck it up and get it done. That does not work well. It doesn't work well in the short term. It doesn't work well in the long term. And when you do that, you are teaching your kids to do the same. So when we talk about, okay, how do we know the magic number? Observe. Take some time and observe your child. Once you know the signs, and we've talked about the signs, the symptoms, what happens when we lack sleep, Now you can better identify them with your kids because you've identified it with yourself. So if you notice that your child is more irritable, ask them like, hey, what time did you go to bed last night? And take note of what time they woke up. And so first it's a process of like collecting data almost, and then having a conversation with them. For years, my son needed 10 hours of sleep. And we did it whatever we needed to do. We left the movies early. We left dinner early. We opted out of engagements to make sure that his sleep was protected. Now that he's older, he doesn't need 10 hours. He's noticed, okay, 8 hours work, 8.5 work. And now he's 15 and he's like, I can get away with 7.5. But he's able to do that because we've had conversations about sleep and what we notice when he doesn't sleep well. And one of his telltale signs is that he is super hyper, like the Energizer Bunny. I know I just dated myself and it's okay. But that was his telltale. That's what we recognize as parents. When he didn't get enough sleep, he was on 10. So it's up to you to take time, notice, observe, and then have that conversation with your teenager. And that's how you determine what's the just right amount. And know that everyone's different. You have your larks that are early to bed, early to rise, and you have your owls that are late to bed and late to rise. Knowing where your child fits in and helping them to cultivate a schedule that will prioritize their sleep. That's the whole idea. So when we have good sleep, it helps us to clearly think and remember information and make decisions. And when we don't get good enough sleep, it impairs our executive functions. And that's like a set of abilities we need to do well at school, work, and all realms of life. Sleep feeds our creativity. It allows for new ideas. When we're well rested, we have those aha moments. It's like, oh, where did that come from? That came from good sleep. Wouldn't you like to have more of those? Wouldn't you like for your child to be in their most creative space? That comes from good sleep. So when we talk about our sleep habits, some of us have great ones and some of us have not so great sleep habits. But your sleep hygiene, if you think about, when we say the word hygiene, I know most of us think about personal hygiene and be like, ooh, you stink. You know, that's what we tell our teens when they haven't showered. Sleep hygiene can stink too. It cannot be well and not cultivate good sleep. Sleep hygiene consists of 3 things: our wake up time, our wind down time, and our bedtime. So when we think about what time we wake up, here's some questions to ask yourself. Am I waking up around the same time every day? This is something to talk to your teens about. And I say every day, not every weekday, but every day. Research says that when our bedtimes and our wake up times are consistent every day, it improves our sleep quality. And ideally, if it varies, like no more than 2 hours. So when your kid is up at 6 a.m. on a weekday to get to high school and they sleep till noon on the weekend, it's actually not helpful, according to research. Now, everyone doesn't fit in the research. There's always exceptions and differences, and that's okay. But if you notice that even though your child sleeps more on the weekend, they're still sluggish, they're still having a problem making good decisions, then you may want to check that wake up time. Our wind down time. When we are winding down, that's the time that we take to prepare for bed, to prepare our minds for sleep. Many of us don't do this. Many of us is like, okay, time to go to bed. And we lay down and we just expect our brains and bodies to cut off in an instance. You have to be intentional about cultivating that time. So for my teenager, one of the things that we do is screens go away 30 to 45 minutes before bed. You can read, you can listen to music, you can do some stretching, you can do some yoga. These are all things that your teenager can do or you can do yourself, but the screen goes away. Because as long as the screen is in your face, in your child's face, it's stimulating the brain. If the brain is stimulated, it's not saying it's time to go to sleep. And then when actual bedtime comes, there's another 30 or 40 minutes before your teen falls asleep, which actually means that their in the bedtime and their sleep time varies by 45 minutes to an hour. So if you find the magic number, your child's magic number is 8, and bedtime is 10 for them to get 8 hours, but the screen doesn't go away to 9:59, the likelihood is they're not going to fall asleep to 10:30, 11 o'clock, which now means their sleep time dropped from 8 hours to 7 hours. So thinking about what you do to wind down, it could be brushing your teeth, showering, whatever you decide to do and your teen decide to do it exactly the same every night as consistently as possible. This is how we retrain the brain to get good quality sleep. For those of you who brush your teeth at night before bed, I want to challenge you to brush your teeth about 5 o'clock and see what happens. Research will tell us that we will start to get tired and feel a little sleepy, and that the reason is the brain gets the message when you brush your teeth that it's bedtime, because that's what usually happens in your sleep routine for your sleep hygiene. It's not a coincidence. So we can train the brain to know the signs of it's time to go to sleep. So brushing your teeth, showering, meditating, and then picking a consistent bedtime as well. So our sleep hygiene is wake up time, wind down time, and bedtime. Reserve your bed for sleep. The bed should be for sleep. Same thing with your teenagers. If they're wanting to do homework in bed or snacking in bed, playing the video game from bed, encourage them to move out of their bed into a different space so that when they are in the bed, the brain knows we're just getting ready to go to sleep. This is all the bed is for. And I get it. Some of us like to lay in bed and watch TV. Just move to the couch. That way, when it's time to go to sleep, there's a clear disconnect of this is waking time and this is what we do, and this is bedtime and this is what happens at bedtime. Another way to look at how do we cultivate sleep outside of bedtime. So that's what I've just focused on, preparing your sleep hygiene before bed. But earlier I mentioned that sleep starts to cultivate from the moment you wake up. Identifying your worries, what thoughts you're having in your mind on repeat, and identify the external stressors, looking at the things that are in your control and that are out of your control. Setting your day up to be a positive, intentional day. So some people will start with a moment of mindfulness where it's just being very present in the moment, whether it's taking some nice deep breaths, whether it's eating breakfast very mindfully and using all of your 5 senses to look at your food and to smell your food and to thoroughly taste it. Just taking a moment to be present. It's not any additional time needed. It's just a matter of being intentional with the time that you have. And this is something that you can help your teens with, because a lot of times we'll tell them, slow down, take your time. But it's like, what does that really mean when they see us moving so fast throughout the day? Come on, let's get this, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. How do they learn to slow down? What does that even look like if we're not practicing it and modeling it for them? How do they know? Mindfulness is AKA slow down. That's what it is. Just taking time to be present in the moment. So when you wake up, having your morning routine, expressing some gratitude, teaching your kids about expressing gratitude. It's not about thanking you. It's about them recognizing the good in their life and the things in their life that they are very much grateful for. And it could be you and some of the things that you do, or it could be the sun is shining. Or it could be the water was nice and hot for the shower. It could be like I have several options for breakfast, or I have friends that care about me. Helping them to learn how to do that, how to express gratitude, modeling it for them, practicing it yourself. So this is cultivating. This is all of the things that we can do from the moment we wake up so that by the time we get to bed, we are ready for sleep and we can have quality sleep. Sometimes it may mean doing a brain dump is what I like to call it and what people call it. And brain dumps can happen various ways. You can do it before you go to bed at night. You can do it first thing in the morning. You can do it in the middle of the day. Whenever you feel like your thoughts are getting away from you, take a moment. You can take out your cell phone and go to the notepad, or you can take out a physical piece of paper and pencil, and I want you to draw a T. At the top, you can write brain dump. On the left side, what's in my control. On the right side, what's out of my control. And just start to write all the things that come to mind, all of the worries, all of the stressors, all of the anxieties. Just write and get it all out. If you don't want to organize it right away, just get a blank piece of paper and just write everything that comes to mind, and then you can organize it later. Whatever you prefer. It's not a right or wrong. The whole idea is to get it from here, give it space, give it a safe place, and then take action. Because worry is repeated thought, but it can be helpful if we take action on it. So when you get your list and you look at it, the things that are out of your control, you get to decide how you're going to respond to it. And this is something that you can do with your teen. I would encourage you to sit down with your teen and do this. Even if you have to heavily persuade them, aka make them, do it. They will thank you later. This is a tool and a skill that they can carry through the rest of their life that will decrease their worries, their anxieties, and their stress. So when you look at the list, things are out of your control, you get to decide how you respond to them. Like COVID numbers going up. I get to decide how I respond to it. I get to decide what emotion or feeling comes to me as it relates to that. I can panic and never leave my house again, or I can tell myself I'm doing the best that I can. I'm following all of the guidelines. I am keeping my mask on. I'm washing my hands. I am social distancing. And right now, today, I'm safe. See, I get to decide. So now it's not a stressor. It's not a worry. It's something that's happening that's outside of my control. Now, the things that's in your control, you get to decide. Like, okay, what am I going to do with them? For your teen, it may be, I'm upset, I'm failing geometry. Okay, what am I going to do about it? Go to tutorials, talk to the teacher, ask for extra credit, get a tutor. Ask my friend Joey, who has an A+ in AP Geometry, to let's get on a Zoom call a couple times a week to talk about geometry so that I better understand. Those are action items. That's in your control to change. When we dump our brains before bed or throughout the day, when we get ready to lie down at night, worry does not keep us up. Anxieties do not keep us up. Stress does not keep us up. Because we've dumped it all, given it a safe place, and we're relaxed. Research says if we journal about 8 to 10 minutes 3 times a week, it decreases our stress. There's power in releasing what's here to paper or to an app. And there are apps. I'll talk about some apps that you can use for journaling and sleep and other things. So being able to do that and telling yourself, okay, it's in a safe place. Reflecting. As you go throughout the day, when you get to the end of the day, take a moment to reflect. Teach your teenagers how to reflect. What moments in the day do I feel proud of? What moments in the day made me smile? What moments in the day do I want to improve upon tomorrow? You can do this for yourself and then teach your teen how to do it as well. Reflecting gives us the motivation to keep going, but it also gives us the insight of what we need to do differently. And then when we lie down at night, we're not thinking like, did I say the wrong thing? Did I do the wrong thing? Could I have done that better? Because guess what? We've already taken care of it. I know that I'm making it sound very simple, but I can tell you that it's not terribly hard either. It's about being intentional. And I will say that word over and over again until it's understood. You're going to do something with your time anyway. What's the reason not to be intentional with it and teach your teenagers how to be intentional to improve your sleep, therefore improving your stress levels, your mental health, and your physical health? Some of the other things that we can do during the day to cultivate sleep for night is practicing kindness and fostering connections because it reduces our stress. and it reduces the harmful effects on our mood and sleep. So when we're fostering connections, it can be asking your teen like, hey, when the last time you talked to Mark? I know you guys really was hanging out before COVID. Have you talked to them lately? Fostering your own connections could be reaching out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while, or scheduling time with your best friend to hop on a Zoom or social distance at the park. That is fostering connections. Fostering kindness, it feels good to do good. We call that altruism. It boosts our mood. Literally, a chemical in our brain is released to help us feel good when we are kind. Kindness can be a smile. And I know it's hard to smile right now because we're in masks. But look, I smile. I can literally look at someone and see their eyes and know when they're smiling. A kind gesture of holding the door for someone. So when we foster kindness and connection, we release hormones in our brain that boost our mood. When our mood is feeling good and we're energized during the day, it helps us to sleep better at night. Relaxation techniques like deep breathing, stretching, yoga, mindfulness meditation, calming music, sitting in silence. Yes, sitting in silence. When we sit in silence, it literally heals our brain. The longer we can sit in silence, the more healing that takes place in our brain. There's research that talks about a monk that was like 41, 42 years old that often practiced silence as part of their religious practice. And when their brain was looked at, it was looked like the brain of a 33-year-old because there was healing that was taking place when in silence. So even doing that, taking a few minutes to sit in silence, to calm your thoughts, to ease your worries, will help to contribute to your sleep at night. So teaching your teens is much easier when you first do so for yourself. Modeling it, prioritizing your sleep. There are apps, tons of apps. I'll go over a few, but you can literally Google meditation apps, sleep apps. I use a few different apps. Part of the way I said earlier, like I knew my magic number for sleep before COVID and then after. The way I was able to do that is by using the Sleep Cycle app, which is an app that monitors your sleep. And people are like, how do they do that? Through the microphone of your phone. I get it. It might be a little creepy, but whatever. Like literally, if you use your phone and use GPS, something's going to happen on it. Like ads will pop up. You've experienced that. But it's through the mic and it monitors your sleep, and it's not perfect, but it just gives you a picture of the quality of sleep you receive and how much time you spend in bed versus how much time you spend asleep. It also will tell you how long it took you to fall asleep. And so that was one of the ways I was able to cultivate my magic number to go, okay, this percentage is where I want to be. When I have this percentage of sleep, I wake up feeling well. I wake up feeling energized. One little cool thing about it is it has a sleep window, a wake up window. So instead of waking you up right at 8 o'clock, which is an option, you can opt to wake up in a window because research shows if we are awake closer to our light sleep than a deep sleep, then we wake up feeling more refreshed. And now I had to test that theory because I felt like I was losing sleep. Like I'm like 8:20 versus 8 o'clock. That's 20 minutes difference. I want my 20 minutes. But it literally, I could feel the difference, you guys. Like I could feel that if I was closer to awake anyway, and it was time to be awakened, I felt more refreshed. So that's an app that you can look into. It plays soothing sounds as well. The Calm app is another app that helps with meditation, mindfulness, anxiety, stress, sleep. You can literally go search it by theme. Headspace, a lot of my teen clients like Headspace. What are some other ones? Breathe is another app that is good. So there are lots of apps that will support you on your journey and your teenagers on their journey to cultivating good sleep hygiene. You can also look at apps for journaling because journaling is beneficial. You can encourage your teens to voice record their feelings and thoughts throughout the day. And at the end of the day, kind of play them back to see where they are, which feelings and emotions still need to be addressed and which ones pass throughout the day. Because I don't know about you, But sometimes you can have one moment that didn't go well and you'll chalk up the whole day and be like, it was a horrible day. Our teenagers do that sometimes. But if they're voice recording throughout the day and they reflect back, they'll go, oh, I thought the world was going to end at 10:02 when I got that failing grade. And now I feel better. And so they end up being able to look at their stress levels and realize that it's okay to have heightened stress, but it doesn't have to last forever and always, that it will pass, that the feelings of sadness, the feelings of loneliness, whatever they're feeling, that it's not a forever place, that it will pass. And doing those voice recordings throughout the day will help them. So I know that as parents, our teens, their device, their hand is molded like this, right? Because the device just fits right in there. And when there is poor decisions or negative consequences have to come. And a lot of times that is the removal of the device. And I get it. I have a teenage son. Sometimes he loses his phone privileges. However, when he loses the privileges, it's not always necessarily that he loses the whole device. So he very much enjoys music. He will listen to music to help him fall asleep. So what we'll do is sometimes let him connect his Bluetooth device. His phone will be in my bedroom, but he can play music in his bedroom. So that's an alternative where they still get to cultivate their bedtime routine. Or if they listen to soothing sounds, you can always get like a sound machine. A lot of us are maybe familiar with it from when we had babies and you would put on the white noise to help them sleep. Well, they sell them in Walmart, wherever you go, with various sounds. So you can have one of those plugged up in the teen room. And then also this amazing technology allows us to like shut this app off and keep this app on. So if there's an app that your teen has grown to use and enjoy, you can turn off the other apps and keep that app active. You can even keep it on a time limit where it's for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it may be, just from your device, if your device is connected to theirs on a family shared plan or whatever it may be, or just going into their device and putting restrictions on with the code. So there's a way that even though they are on punishment or grounded from their device, that in the components that they use to socialize, you can still allow them to have it for the components that they're using to cultivate good sleep hygiene. So soothing sounds at night, meditating at night, creating a sleep schedule and tending to your sleep hygiene, finding the magic number, and just most importantly, knowing the value of sleep, giving your sleep more value and prioritizing it. So I hope that today that sleep has gone from the bottom or the middle of the list to the top of the list. That you can understand as a parent that when our sleep is regulated and our exercise is regulated, that our anxieties are lower automatically. There's no way for us to sleep regularly and exercise regularly and anxiety still be high, unless there may be a disorder present. But even then, those two things are like the cornerstone. So being willing to prioritize your sleep so that you can teach your teenager how to prioritize their sleep. Their brains are still very much developing, and the sleep that they need or the sleep that they don't have will impact the ability for the brain to fully develop. I appreciate being here today and spending time with you all. And I hope that you continue this conversation at home, around the table, with family, with friends, that you look into some of the things yourself. And if your sleep isn't regulated and you've tried multiple things as well as your teenager, that you'll get some additional help. Whether it's talking to your medical doctor, whether it's talking to a therapist, being sure to get with a professional so that there's a clear understanding of what's going on. So before you decide to medicate or do anything else, talk to a professional. Even with the melatonin, I know some of us like to take it and it's okay for a short period of time, but being careful and mindful about extended periods of time of supplements or anything without a medical professional or a mental health professional advice. So until next time, you guys have a great one and sleep tight.